Hey guys, Ben Oosterveld here with the Business from Within podcast. This is the Business from Within podcast. I have Phoebe Mroczek. I actually wrote your name down and sounded it out. I was looking at it. I've known you for a bit, and I'm like, I've never really had to say your last name, so it's Mroczek. Is that right?
Mroczek, okay. Like you write a check.
Oh, see, I knew it. Anyways, yeah. Well, you know what? I wrote my own little introduction to you, so I just have it right here. You also mentioned breaking the rules, so this is part of breaking the rules. I'm not going to follow much. So here it is. Phoebe has a relentless passion to help people. She loves rewriting the rules around business and life so they truly connect with what really matters. Phoebe is on a mission to teach leaders that it's critical to learn how to play while building businesses that reject the hustle, but still dominate, grow, and create massive impact. This is Phoebe Mroczek. You're working with leaders, you're working with women. I am very happy to know you. I remember when you walked into the mastermind that we both attend. I don't even like calling it a mastermind. It's more like come into a room, challenge the living crap out of your personal life, and watch our businesses grow. Is that more?
It's like a family, you know. You like butt heads with people, and then at the end of the day, you love them all, so it's fine.
That is totally like family. So I know that you have a podcast. I want to shout out right now. I actually going to do something totally weird again. I have your intro ready, so I want people to know who you are. So I'm going to literally play your podcast intro on this podcast, so people get to know you. Here it is.
In business. So buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. Unbecoming is the practice of releasing perfectionism, judgment, and expectations to discover who you truly are and what you're meant to do. It's unscripted, unrefined, and unapologetic, the way I believe life should be. Join me as I set out to prove that the more fun you have, the faster your business will grow, and the more fulfilled you'll feel in life. It's finally time to reject the hustle, redefine our metrics for success, and scale our businesses with intention to create a life of ease, impact, and adventure. This is the Unbecoming Podcast, and I'm your host, Phoebe Mroczek.
There it is. So weird, hey?
I know, I got a little bit nervous. I was like, I hope it's still applicable. Yeah. That's the part you never listen to of your podcast. Like,
oh, that's right. So why are you doing a podcast, Phoebe? Like, what's going on with that?
To be honest, I was on a previous podcast and I just knew that some of the conversations I wanted to have were not conversations that I was finding. And so I just decided this has kind of been the story of my life, just to create it myself. And I did it not knowing the personal development roller coaster that was going to happen, which it has been the best lesson. And just feeling all the feelings, right? Of like, oh my God, everything's amazing. This is great. I get to say whatever I want. Oh no, is anyone going to listen? You know, is anyone listening? Hello, is this thing on? You know, and so it's been this. I think for me to really figure out, really to fine tune my message and to see if it was resonating with people, but more than anything, really for me, it was just to speak and to actually like be consistently speaking my truth. And this show, above anything else that I've done, has been the one thing that like really keeps me honest, because I know that I am showing up every week to record, and I don't batch my episodes. A lot of people batch, which is what I did in my previous podcast, and strategically it's the right move, right? But for me, I was like, I enjoy recording every week and being consistent.
Feels fresh probably, right? Totally.
And it's like, and then I get to update people on my life, and people make comments on what I said, you know, when I ate 4 pints of ice cream or something.
You know what? That actually is something I wanted to talk about. I literally have one of my first questions here. What's up with the ice cream? Like, what is up with that? Like, what's the flavor? Like, is it the same flavor or what? Mint chocolate chip? Is that it or what? Yeah, I think you're such a strategist. You were trying to get a sponsor, and I like it.
I mean, if Haagen-Dazs is out there and they're looking for a role
let's call it out. I seen you do that. I'm like, she's getting a sponsor. I'm just going to keep you you're going to be like huge, but you got your sponsor, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 1,200 pounds, but
so
whatever.
So is that a guilty pleasure? Like, is ice cream your thing?
I mean, I think it was like growing up, I want to say I took kind of a hiatus, I guess. And then in April because I'm very like, this is another big part of like me and my almost like my own unbecoming process, which has been like, stop myself from being such a dictator on myself and on my life.
That's so good. Yeah.
And I have so many rules for myself. And one of them, and I even like catch myself saying it now, but so much worse before, was I don't allow myself to have that. And so I would just say that all the time, especially about ice cream, because I'm like, I just don't allow myself to have that. Yeah. And then when I like picked up on it, I was like, oh, well, that's stupid. Who cares? It's an ice cream and it's great. And it's delicious. You can have it every day if you want, but it doesn't really matter. And I found in April, I went off booze, I went off coffee, I went off added sugar 5 days a week. And so the 2 days a week, I just managed to squeeze those together, push those together. And then across the 4 days, I ate 4 pints of ice cream.
Oh my goodness. So like in one sitting or in one sitting?
I mean, at once a day. Yeah.
You know what? I think about it, and I think about women nowadays, and like I'm married and I have also little girls, and I think that's not a conversation you would say on a podcast or out there. And I love that about you, Phoebe. It's like, you're like, I know deep down, you're like, fuck, this is going to be like, I'm going to say this, but you're like, screw it, I'm going to do it anyways. That's what my feeling is that?
Yeah, it doesn't actually happen until after I push stop and like I upload it to my editor, and then I'm like, oh. Or like people comment back, and I'm like, oh my God.
Did people get inspired, Phoebe? Like did other women say, oh, that's so cool that you just admit that?
I don't think it's necessarily the one thing that I admit. I think it's, I mean, just the people that are speaking to me right now, especially just that things are resonating on my show, it is that I'm not trying to be anything that I'm not. I'm being really open and honest about what's going on in my life, what's going on in my business, how things are unfolding, what am I struggling with? And that's something, that I set out to do on my podcast. I feel like there are enough people talking down to you all the time about you should be doing this, and your life should look like this, and why does it not look like mine? And I just found like, I don't actually want to be that. I want to be the girl that you plug in and you listen to me on a walk or in your, on a drive to pick up your kids. Yeah. And it's just refreshing, and you feel like you get to know me, because that's the best way that I know how to connect with the most amount of people in one time, like in one sitting. Do you find, because I've only known you actually right when you started that podcast. So I'm imagining you before that. I'm just wondering, did you have like a personal awakening or awareness, or did you experience pain that gave you enough pain to say, you know what, I just got to be real? Because it sounds like you used to be a should person, like you just called, what do you call yourself? Like a ruler over yourself, or dictator. A dictator. So let's just say, what happened there, and how did that affect your business? Like, what was going on? Yeah, I mean, I feel like it wasn't like one defining moment. I think it was just a lot of little moments built up, and one right after the next, where it was like constantly pushing me, and I felt like it was one of those, like, you got to either do it or don't do it. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your show, but
don't fucking swear.
Okay, good. You have to shit or get off the pot, right? And so
that shit, that's not even counting as a snack for real. Like, I got way. Let's try to get an E beside it, okay? That's when we know we won. Anyways, sorry.
I love. I'm like, yeah, don't bleep it out. It's great.
What are we bleeping for? Like everyone swears, and the people that don't, they're swearing in their mind. But anyways.
Exactly.
So sorry, totally ADD there.
I'm happy we share that love.
Yeah, good. So we will be randomly swearing. It's totally fine.
Yeah, that's just the way I do things. Yeah, and so I think in my business specifically, my business has just evolved so much from the beginning to where it is now. And in those little evolutions, it was, leaving a business partnership that, was doing all right. It was doing fine. And I just knew, I was like, something's just not sitting right with me. On my last podcast, again, I felt like I wasn't able to fully show up as myself and talk about the things that I want to talk about how life isn't always beautiful and amazing and wonderful, but a little bit of perspective and kind of interviewing people if I want to have those conversations and dig really deep. And that was kind of running parallel to my personal life, right? So my belief is you build a business as an extension of yourself. And so we have like the business side, which is like, okay, one right after the next. Am I doing this? And I just felt like I was making a lot of like little moves away from center. And then by the end, I got to one point and I was like, what am I doing? I don't even enjoy doing this. And I felt super burnt out. So actually, right when you met me, I was just probably right in the middle of like a total burnout. I just like I was not having fun. I just couldn't quite figure out what was going on. And so then personally, it was the same thing. Mirror all that stuff happening at the same time. So it was a lot of like figuring out who I am. And this has been a journey for me, I would say, really strictly for the last 5 years, but nothing before then really, other than like self-help books and stuff. But for the last 5 years has been like really intense. And you know me at Sedona. I went early and did this whole like crazy, spiritual stuff. And it was just, so I don't, to answer your question, I don't think, in a very long-winded way, I don't think it was one specific thing. I think it was just a collection of a lot of moves that just were like moving me in the wrong direction.
Interesting. So you work with a lot of women, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about who you, like, I'm just thinking who listens, right? Like I'm also a strategist. It's like an intuitive strategist, I guess.
Yeah.
But I just think about what are the main things you're hearing from women? First of all, give me the demographic of who you're talking to. And then secondly, what are the main struggles these women are facing? Because I know that is like your sweet spot, right?
Yeah. So I'm speaking to women that are 2 to 4 years into business that feel like, my analogy is always swimming. So they feel like they've been doggy paddling long enough. So on the surface, they look great and everyone thinks that they're doing really well, but under the surface, they're like, scrounging, and they're doing all that they know how to do, that they've learned, that they've experienced it, and they just need some guidance. They're really great implementers and executors as soon as they have a clear path and strategy. And so they're just missing that. That's on like on the professional side. And what they don't realize is that it all comes back to the personal side, right?
Exactly.
You know this really well. And I know that you can speak to that. And it's
why you're on the show, legitimately why we're talking. If we're talking just strategies, it's a complete waste of time.
Right. And so I just feel like on the surface, that's who I'm going for, right? And so there are coaches, course creators, consultants, people with online businesses. And what their biggest struggles are is, they're not making enough money. They're not, this is what they come to me with. They don't have enough time. Yeah. They're trying to raise a family and they can't, they never see their kids or they feel like a work-life balance has to be a choice. And so I have a whole thing about the word balance, but it's like, I just don't think that you have to choose between the two. And so they feel very strongly that they do, and they're just not having fun in their business. Yeah. That's not really a struggle. Like that's not something necessarily, but when I start asking the right questions, I'm like, what is your business exciting to you right now? And they're like, not really. They've gotten kind of swept up in this wave of like what everybody else, other people's judgments and expectations of like,
totally. Now
all of a sudden you want an 8-figure business, but a year ago you were excited to just make $5,000 a month.
True. I run into the same thing, Phoebe. It's weird. I had a guy apply for my program and he's like, I want to make $800,000 this year. And I'm like he's a real estate agent. And I'm just like, honestly, like, do you know what it takes to do that? Like, it's not, and then at the end of the day, I don't think that's what he wants.
Right.
Do you find you unravel that? Like people just start with that and it's like everyone wants to make lots of money. And at the end of the day, that's not what they want. Yeah.
I love those conversations because I just feel like that like unraveling that you said is just gets people back into almost like a perspective, right? We can get lost in this online world where it just feels like really detached and really disconnected from reality. And then you go and you're like, oh my gosh, do I need $800,000 to like sustain my lifestyle? Or would I be happier with $250,000 and a month off every year, or
so crazy,
like a whole summer off with my kids, whatever it is. And
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think it's like really important just to get down to like what they specifically want. Like, what is it about running a business that attracted you initially, and then where has it evolved to now? And I think that's really important to get down to like, what do you actually want? That is the hardest question. I ask myself that all the time. I was sitting with this really successful man, and he's telling me, we were just connecting. He wanted to meet, and I just said, what do you want? And he kind of described that he wants a jet. And I'm like, really? Really a jet? I'm like other than a jet, what do you want? And there was no answer. And that's where my heart hurts. Do you relate to that with people that you're working with? Totally, because the thing is, the jet is the flashy answer. That's it's almost like the showstopper. When you say I want a jet, it's like conversation over. And it also like people feel bad. Like, because if I'm going to push in a question like that, of course I'm going to go under the hood and be like, what? All right, tell me about this jet. What else, right? Like, what else is there? And what does the jet represent to you? Mm-hmm. Like, if you can I'm big into visualizations, and if you can actually put yourself in that jet, how will you feel by the time you have your jet? Even if nobody was around. Like, that's what I think is really important about our goals is like, if it is contingent on, or if it hinges on the satisfaction or approval of other people, then it's actually not a goal that that isn't really achievable. And I think people get lost in that. You want to, I mean, I don't know this jet person, but you know, if you want to jet because of the reaction that other people are going to have, then that's a jet that's a dangling carrot. You're never going to get it.
You'll never please that either. You'll never, that's an unsatisfactory, like you'll never fill it. So here's my question. Sometime in your life, you probably had your own jet. What was it? And now that you don't believe it, like we evolve, right? So did you ever what's your jet from before?
I mean, the first thing off the top of my head for sure is $1 million business like that. But it wasn't even $1 million. It was $1 million before I turned 30. Actually, that was like always my thing. I had talked about it like it was done. And at 29 and a half, I had like a major breakdown. I remember exactly where I was standing. I was in Berlin.
I didn't make it.
Yeah. And I was talking to a friend of mine and he was like, wow, well, you got 6 months to make it happen. And it was just like this, we just started laughing. And he was like, how would your life be different right now if you were a millionaire? And
I love that question.
So good. And I use that all the time. How would your life be different if you had a jet? How would you and I just looked at myself and I was like, you know what? I would still buy the same shitty ripped up jeans from Target for $14 and wear them for 10 years because that's just who I am, the only way my life would have changed when I was 30 is what I said to him was I would fly first class. That was it. And I was like, if I want to travel, I travel.
That's like $500 more. You know, like at the end of the day, it's like $500. Like,
and it was just like, you don't need $1 million for that. It was so stupid.
I know it's so cool to unravel. But I think people almost like, tell me what you think, is that people put that around them as a barrier. I almost feel like I want to be $1 million business, but the real truth can never be tapped into that because you're chasing this thing. You know what I mean? It's almost scary to let that go because then now what?
Yeah.
Then you're stuck with what do I want? Who am I? It's almost better to have these big goals. I think businesses now, like maybe it's changing now that we have a lot more self-awareness but there's still a lot of challenge out there. Like these massive goals almost are like a badge. Like I've got this goal, I'm going to buy the jets. Like, that's Gary Vaynerchuk's like nothing against it, but people follow it. Like, I don't think his actually has some thought behind it, but there's a lot of people that just pick these big goals I think they're just hiding behind something. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, when I talk to my clients about their goals, it is so funny because I'm like, you didn't come out of a womb at 0 years old saying, hey, I want a jet. Right? Like, whose idea was that at first? Like, where is that voice coming from? And then like, the why behind it. And I think it is this like, I have these big goals because everyone tells me I need to have these big goals. And so it's almost like, well, I remember happened, I don't know, almost a year ago probably. And somebody recently was like talking to me about, what was it? They asked a question about my goal or something. And it was like in a room and I just said the answer that I knew everybody else wanted to hear from me.
That is a sick feeling, hey?
Oh, I was like, I want an 8-figure business with 100 employees. And like, if you know me at all, that's like the opposite of what I want. I want a very mobile business so I can change directions and I definitely don't want 100 employees, but I said it because I thought it would get.
We've all done that.
Yeah, and it's like, it was in this, like, we were going around in a circle, and it was almost like, spotlight off me, I'm going to pass it to you because I've got a big goal that nobody can touch and no one can poke holes in.
Interesting.
And I'm going to pass the baton that way, right? But then it became, and as it came out, I was like, and then I was checked out for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
all I could think about.
Yeah,
I was like,
totally.
Where did that come from? Why did I need their approval? What was that all about?
There's that feeling when you say that when you do something that just doesn't align, I feel gross. Like, I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like when you do that, like, oh yeah, I totally love that, man. And like, I totally don't love that. And like, it's the most, I've learned to just, it's so gross now because you just know what it feels like to be real,
I catch myself all the time. I'm like, that was a lie. I actually don't like that.
That's such a good line.
Like, what? I'm like, that was a lie.
Just so you know how I just said that had nothing to do with truth. Like, what? Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about you've got a mastermind group. So first of all, mastermind groups, I've got strong opinions around them. I feel like everyone and their dog's got a mastermind group. Yeah. Okay. And I'm thinking like it's amazing. I love it. I love the idea of it, but there's so many people that are just doing this thing. It's a leveraging people. It's the high priced mentoring program. Tell me why would someone tell me about yours? And I know we're kind of on the same page here. That's why I'm throwing it in. I'm like, you're like, well, that's what mine is. No, but But like what is like what do you do? Tell me about what you do and how this affects people. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, so it's funny because I was going to rename my mastermind and make it something like Circle or whatever. And then I was like, let's just not complicate it. Let's just call it what it is. But I was trying to be like clever and different.
Yeah, totally.
But for me, it's like my mastermind is like the joy of my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
I love, actually even personal life. These women have become some of my really good friends. And so I always talk about my podcast and my mastermind. Those are like the two things for me that are like the most fulfilling. And why I think masterminds work when they work, right? I've been parts of ones that do not work. Yeah. And I think the reason why they work, if they work, is that there's I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I kind of am.
Toot.
You've got to have a good facilitator, right? You've got to have someone who knows who's been a part of one and who also knows how to structure one.
Okay, what makes a good facilitator? I totally just cut you off, but I want to, what makes you a good facilitator? Like, what makes a good facilitator?
Yeah, so structure. So here are the three important things that I think make a great mastermind, which is structure or format, the people, and the content. So like, what is it about, or like the area of expertise or the intention. And so a lot of people don't start off with an intention, right? They're like, we just doing a mastermind because everyone does a mastermind. Yeah. But if there's an intention behind it. So for example, my intention for my one coming up is to double your profit in 9 months. That is like, I'm very clear about that because that is measurable. It's tangible. I know if we achieved it or if we didn't. And I'll lead with the numbers, like I'll lead with business, but what they get is much different and they get a full experience. And so the intention is really important. Then the structure of it, this is where I feel like people lose. I mean, they lose people on all three of them, but this one specifically. So I am incredibly structured. I'm a very like free flowy kind of person, but when it comes to structure, especially in a mastermind, I'm really serious about it. So we have 2 calls a month, and those are standing calls that we know every month. It's going to be the second. Well, this one that I'm currently running is the first and the third Wednesday of every month. Yeah. And so those are booked out in a year in advance, for the whole year. Yeah. And then we have, they can request hot seats. So not everybody gets a hot seat. If you don't want a hot seat, you don't need one. But every call, whoever has requested a hot seat gets a hot seat. And what I've done to structure that is 2 minutes to ask your question. And in those 2 minutes, I find that people, we don't need all the backstory. We just need the important bits, the important parts of what the actual question is. And then 7 minutes for the group to come in and add. And this is where the idea of the mastermind really takes form, takes shape, is now all of a sudden you have all these other people giving their opinion, advice, expertise on whatever your question is. And you're not allowed to turn down anything. You have to accept everything. You're not allowed to I'm really cautious about the way people respond. So I coach them at the beginning how to respond. You're not allowed to say, I've already tried that. I've already done this. It failed. So
you get them to receive it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like receive it. And then the last minute of the 10 minutes is you reflect back to the group what you heard. And I find that to be probably the most impactful thing that I would say in terms of structure that I've created. Yeah, it's just because you might say something to me, but I'm looking through my lens of what's already been possible. But now when I say it back to you, you're going to be like, nope, that's not actually what I meant. Yeah. And so that minute of reflection is really important. And then just the way we open, the way we close just feels really cohesive. And then we do, the other really important component is that I do a live in person at the beginning and the end. Yeah. So I have 2 kind of varying levels. So for the higher one, it's like we meet at the beginning and then we meet again at the end. And these women are also, I should say, they're all my second year. Their second year with me. So first year we only did 1 and it was at the end, 1 live in-person event. And I just found everyone was looking forward to it being over because they wanted to all meet up. And I was like, wait a second. Like, yeah,
no, totally. I did I run a mentorship group too. And I did the beginning, more tactical, all tactics and one little bit of a personal, just introduce them, and then coaching. And at the end I do straight up personal growth, last retreat. But those are huge highlights. Like I'm sure that I can totally understand when you're in that zone where people are in a group and they've got to know each other. Like there's nothing like that. That's like the highest point. Do you relate to that too?
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten really close, and I actually halfway through last year, I added Voxer as part of it. And I just said, use this as you want. It's just faster than a Facebook group to put it,
Interesting.
Facebook
Yeah.
groups, links and stuff. But to use a Voxer group is different,
It's like a WhatsApp in a way, right?
Yeah. So you're like walkie-talking back and forth. And I think that has probably has been like the best thing that I did in the group, because they're in there. I mean, no joke, every day. Like every day. And
exactly what you want.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so
Do you know what it is? It's a
Yep.
community, right? Like, it's funny, like back in the day, it used to be church.
Mhm.
Like, seriously, you wait, right? There's no internet,
Yeah.
no nothing. I remember you go to church and that's where people are. Like
Yeah.
and it's funny because not just church, it's like the Rotary Club, and there's it's almost the same thing. It's almost like we're all looking for that replacement of community for real.
Totally.
That's something that I know that if I don't have that, it's a little depressing if you don't have that community. And that's where the Voxers is. That's really cool technology that can drive the community. I love that.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to go. And sometimes I'll wake up in the morning because I'm on the West Coast. And so, they're all over. And I'll wake up and it'll be like 47 messages. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on in that group? But
oh my goodness.
There's no expectations, right? I've always said, I'm like, if you have a serious problem, then message me. If not, then whoever's is in there. We have one woman who's on holiday right now. She's going to come back to like a bazillion messages.
Oh yeah.
And she gets caught up if she wants to, it's very low key, but I added that as like a nice to have.
Is yours 90 days, Phoebe?
So this one's a year.
Yeah.
The next one coming up is 9 months.
Yeah.
So
I got a question. There's actually someone that asked me to ask you a question.
Okay.
And his name is Philip McKernan.
Oh no, really?
I mentioned that I might be interviewing you, and so he's come up with this question here. I've written it down. He goes, in Philip's work, which is obviously we share a mentor, or I guess a facilitator, mentor, jerk, something depends, right? Yeah. But he says a lot of his work he does is about the difference between talent versus gift. And since you have absolutely no talent around soccer, considering that being the truth, what do you think personally is your gift?
Oh, he's going to hear from me on that one. Because just for the record, so that is on some sort of record, we did kill him. Because I'm very competitive and I will remember that forever. Yeah. So I think truthfully, my gift is in connection. That is what I feel like I'm able to really connect on a deeper level, make people feel really comfortable and really safe. So creating safe spaces, bringing the right people together and helping them connect in a way that feels really honest and that feels, as I said, really safe and feels really connected with other people. So I've always had a hard time with that question because I feel like everyone that I've ever looked up to has always said, well, this is my thing and this is my thing. And while immediately my ego is like business strategy, like definitely go in that direction, that's not actually who I am. And so I think helping people connect better with others, with themselves, and to have more fun, like that is really, I know you said it in your little impromptu.
So let's talk about that. So in context of fun is that I grew up in a very tough road. All my life was like, that's the one thing in my life. Like I have kids now and I'm with my wife. My wife is like she play all the time, but I had to ask my kids, I'm like, can you teach me how to play? And it was so interesting because I don't know how to play very well. Like if you spend much time with me, I'm pretty serious, but I'm goofball. But like at the end of the day, it's not an easy thing for me just to have fun. And when I get there, it's so great. But the kids showed me the one thing is, Dad, it's so easy. Look at this. And they're like, where, playing with toys. I'm like, that's fun. Okay. Like it's imagination, Dad. I'm like, so it's really interesting to get a kid's perspective on fun. So I love and I connect with what you're doing. And I understand the importance of it because it totally is something that, like, I try to ask people, what do you do for fun? It's almost a selfish question. Like, so what are you doing for fun? I like building podcasts, businesses, strategies, growing people, doing personal growth. Like, but that's fun for me, but there's a level that I don't know. Can you know what? So anyways, that's kind of, I love the question. I love that you're focusing on it. I think the world desperately needs it.
Yeah, I just find everyone takes life really seriously. And that's been something, so I used to live in China for 3 years, or I lived in China for 3 years. And one of the things that I always joked about was I know that whoever comes off that plane and is in China, I already know all things about them, right? I know that they've got to have a really good sense of humor because you cannot live there. You know, it's frustrating and it's weird and it's fun and it's confusing all at the same time. So you've got to have a really great sense of humor. You've got to be doing something pretty cool to be in China for longer than a year, like teaching English or something, which also is really cool. And you've just got to have a knack for adventure and like a real like thirst for adventure. And so that I feel like is very relevant to the way that I operate in my life, right? The people that I know and the people I look up to and my peers and stuff that I really connect with, I already can tell certain things about them because they're coming into focus for me, right? Which is like, they know how to have fun. And even like, I think the most fun that I've probably had in the last 2 months has been with my nephew, who I know, you know,
I
I've
watch
talked about
online.
him.
Yeah, you light up amazing.
Oh God, he's just so cute. And that's it. It's like, you just forget where you are. You forget who you are and you just are completely in a heart space. And you're out of your head into your body. And it is just such a much different experience. And I think one of the things for me that, you know, I've been thinking about a lot lately is I think I'm at my best when I'm on the spot. Like that is actually, you know,
which is so ironic, to be honest, because I see Phoebe, the planner, the strategist. Isn't that funny? Totally opposite to what you've put out there.
Yeah. Well, because I have always, that's how I do things, right? Like for me to strategize with somebody else, I also am not great. So there's kind of a funny thing happening that you just pointed out, which is when I'm on the phone with somebody and either on a discovery call, like chatting about whether or not we're going to work together, or, you know, I had a call with one of my mastermind women earlier, and I'm always like, I'm going to gather as much information as I can, and I will get back to you. I don't want to give you my first reaction. I want to think about
strategy,
it. And let it yeah. And so from that perspective, I'm much better as like I'm going to mull it over and
analyst like, almost. Yeah.
I'm going to come to the table with a like total, you know, a solution for whatever it is. But then on the other side of it is like personally, like when I show up at 100% as me, it's when I don't actually know the rules. And so that for me was always been traveling. Yeah. Like when I travel, when you go to a foreign country,
you're totally out of control.
Totally out of control. Yeah. Sometimes you don't speak the language. You don't know where you're staying. You don't know how to get around. And it's like, you've got to figure it out and you don't know the rules. And so when I look at my business life and my personal life, I've always done the best, quote unquote, in my opinion, when I didn't know the rules. And so it is this like kind of weird, like on the spot, don't know the rules. I just got to make it up as I go. And I'm pretty resourceful. And so it's that. And then, you know, that like getting out of your head and like, you just got to be present and like really just think about, you're looking at this situation and you're either going to be okay with it or you're not going to be okay with it, you know? And
so do you think like knowing, like I love looking back and going, okay, I overcame that, but did I? And I feel like we have our shadows and they show up. And I feel like when you're saying that, I wonder in your business today, are you still over planning when you could be just flying by the seat of your pants in that magic zone? And do you ever look at your business that way and go, man, maybe I'm still doing it in certain areas, that could it be better?
1,000%. I actually so we met, my mastermind and we met in Austin in March, and I planned the whole thing. I was on the plane, like reevaluating everything and moving things around. Yeah. And when I landed, I turned off airplane mode and the whole thing disappeared. And I didn't know where it went. And I was like, I love that. Oh my God, I'm screwed. And then I was like, okay, well, let me just like figure some things out. But I was literally going to the airport because we were delayed, into like jumping right into the mastermind.
Yeah.
Into the mastermind that I was leading all weekend. You know,
I love that story.
It's my favorite. Was so great. Like it was the best.
Did you just start with being honest? Be like, okay, guys, here's the deal. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, is that, I find that's the best move. If you're going to stumble, just go, by the way, guys, I'm really not going to do well here. And then it goes well.
Well, the nice thing is I feel like I knew them. Like I know them really well, but I did say, I was like, so guess what happened? And they all thought it was hilarious. I was like, so right now, while I look cool, calm, and collected, you know, what's actually going on inside my head is like, oh shit, what's happening next? But we're just going to go with this because here, what I do remember from whatever I put on that paper was like, what did they actually really need right now? Like, what are they struggling with? What can I provide? How can I be of service? And so it was like, here's what we're going to do in the morning. Here's what I think we're going to do in the afternoon. But always, I'm pretty flowy with like, I want to let it go where it needs to go. And it always does. But it was that moment where I was like, oh my gosh, my planner brain is like having a heart attack. And probably like my heart, my like real body is like, yes, just like do it. Do it the way that you want to do it.
Do you think do you think that's the universe? I'm going to spin this a little bit, okay? Just because I kind of get to know you a little bit. And you also know my hidden parts of my life being in our group all the time. So let's talk about something totally, I wasn't planning this. So let's talk about God. Let's talk about the universe, because I never do. And I know I'd like to talk to you about it. So is that like the universe saying, hey, Phoebe, is that like the hand of God? Like, what is that to you from from an absolute spiritual side of things? Because I know that you are foo, right?
Yeah.
You love that stuff.
I do. And it's funny, I have my crystals here.
Yeah, there you go.
I do. I think it's 100% the universe, right? Being like, all right, this is what you say you want, which is to be fully present. Yet you have all these backup plans. So we're going to remove the backup plans. And now there you go. We're giving you what you want. Right. Yeah. And so that is, I 100% look at that as a sign. And I always laugh at little things where I'm like, oh my God, my internet, for example, would like cut out right before I'm about to do a live on something I didn't actually want to talk about. Yeah. I'm like,
so true.
All right. So I just always look at it like, what is this telling me? And if I get frustrated about it, what is that telling me? I know like you, we're just constantly in this state of reflection where it feels like, oh my God, what does that mean? What does this mean? And sometimes it's like, well, the sink broke. That's just what it means.
Sometimes it's just a broken sink.
Exactly.
It's so true. Sometimes you just have to be like, that doesn't mean anything. It's like, why did I dream about avocados last night?
Yeah.
You probably ate too many last night on toast.
Like, exactly. Why did I eat so much ice cream? I'm sure there are a million reasons.
It's something to do with cows. I know. People are like that though.
Yeah.
Way too much. So what do you, what's your background? Were you kind of like as a kid, did you grow into like, was your mom like a gypsy crystal wearing person? Or is it like, did you just stumble upon it and go, I like crystals? Like, how does that work?
So funny. I was going to say, because it's funny to me. I was like, where is it going with this question in terms of, there are 1,000 directions to go. But as far as like the kind of, the woo and the like spirituality stuff. So I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic high school. And I think, so just to be super transparent, when my dad passed away when I was 18, I think I just kind of like questioned everything after that.
For sure.
And that was like a big moment where I was like, screw this. What is that? This is not supposed to happen to somebody like me. I'm a good person, whatever. So I went through that whole like process and of like, what does that actually mean? And where do I stand on the topic of God and spirituality and whatever? And I always said, from the time that I can remember, I never believed in hell. I only ever believed in heaven because I just wanted to believe that everyone was going somewhere great. Even if they've done terrible things, whatever, I just don't really think about them that much. Yeah. And then obviously when my dad passed away, I would just always like talk to him. I'd always like big into angels and I think that was just always because of that. So
very cool.
Yeah. I would say this whole, like the crystal stuff really happened probably, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, kind of at the start of this like personal development tunnel, I guess, for me. And I just sort of fell into it. And it was like the more I kept digging, the more answers I got and the more clarity I got and the more confidence I had. Just knowing that there was somebody who had my back. So whether it's God or the universe, I just kind of think of it being as like a higher power. It doesn't matter to me what people label it as. And then the crystals for me are just, my mom sent me a text the other day that was like, what is with all these crystals on your Instagram? And I just think it's funny because it's like, they just bring me a lot of joy, and I research them and I'll meditate with them. And, the thing is, I feel like when I would say the misconception around like, this woo and the spiritual people is like that they're so far gone that they're not practical. And I think I'm very much in the middle where I can let myself go. When you saw me after Sedona, I was like on a different planet. I was just like, life is amazing. and then I kind of got brought back down to reality a little bit. And I think that's a number of different things, but the practical side of my brain, I think, has run my life. Like the left side of my brain has run my life for so long that it was a matter of time before the right brain had to kick in and be like, wait a second, like, let's balance out some feelings and let's have some emotions. Because I would say what you definitely don't know about me is that I was never this emotional. You know me as probably quite an emotional person.
I could imagine though.
And I
honestly
shoved that shit down.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that just kind of needed to come up, and
Interesting.
There's always been this kind of spiritual undertone. I think
it's a conversation that doesn't happen very much. Like I think we're always kind of like, it's like politics, right?
Yep.
It's one of those like things. So I don't mind talking about stuff like that. I'm trying to actually talk about it more. I've got a lot of history in that as well. So it's cool that you'd share that. I get fascinated by the belief systems that we get hung up on. And I'm sure you see that in your groups all the time. And it's so funny. Like we grew up a certain way. We're told to believe a certain way. And your dad passed away and then everything gets shaken. And it's like, what do I believe? And I feel like that's like a life challenge. Is it mine? Is it mine? Is this one mine? Like any opinion I say, is that mine? Or is that like even political views, even everything, is that mine? I hate those guys. Even as a Edmonton Oilers NHL hockey fan, I'm thinking that's just because I live here. If I was born anywhere else, I'd be cheering for a different team. Like, so it's just like the unwinding of our own belief systems is just like fascinating to me. And then you find yourself, right? Find out you're a crystal gypsy wearing.
Totally. I used to have feathers in my hair. It was so great when I moved to San Francisco. I think that's, for me, that's exactly what unbecoming is, right? It's like unbecoming all of these things. We talk about becoming everything. And it's like, and Paulo Coelho said, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's actually about unbecoming. And you alluded to like the unraveling. And I think that is really what it is. It's like you're unraveling all these things. And I joke with my clients, I'm like, sometimes you got to dump your purse out on the table and figure out what to put back. Totally. I don't care what you put back in there as long as you intentionally chose that to go back in. And so that's what it is about our lives. And, at 18, I just like threw my purse away and didn't look at it, for 10 years and then realized like, oh, wait, I actually, I have a purse. There's some stuff to dump out of there and I get to choose what goes back in. The stories, the beliefs, the patterns, the habits, the conversations, all of those things that are impacting us in so many ways that we don't, it's the background music that we don't even notice.
It's totally like that. Exactly. So, I was thinking about a little change of speed here, just from business strategy stuff, okay? Because I know this is like playtime. Yeah. So this is how I play, is like strategies and playing like that. But I look at the difference between, tell me the difference between quality and speed in business, and when are they important?
Yeah. So, quality for me is always going to be important, right? I think if you have, I have a very high touch business. So quality for me is always incredibly important. In terms of, it really, I think, depends on personality type. And as far as like, sometimes you can create a PDF and it's good enough, right? Like if there's a personality who is a total perfectionist, I identify very much as a recovering perfectionist, but I feel like I am.
That's a t-shirt, by the way. I think I'm going to make you a t-shirt.
I feel like that's me, right? Is I never would put anything out there until it was perfect. So if the quality of something is holding you back, then a little bit of perspective on really detaching from the, what you think, what the perfectionist in you really wants. And so when it comes to quality, I think looking at what needs to be, like what are the needs and what are the nice to haves. So for me, for quality in my business, the need to haves in terms of how I operate is I'm going to be very high touch. I want to be in conversation with you. And when I am, I'm all in and I'm all focused on you. That's going to be really high quality. Any sort of resource that I can create for you is nice to have,
it's like a supporting thing then.
Exactly. It's like, what is incredibly important? Like, I think it can be in tiers. And so when I look at a business, it's like, where do you feel that, you're losing on quality? And that's super easy to make up for. Hiring, outsourcing, massive, totally. Really great opportunities to do that. And so, especially when it comes to the speed part of it, like, I think, there's that phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, bring other people with you. And I agree with that you can go fast, right? To wherever you want to go. But if you really want to reach a huge audience, and a lot of people don't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? But just acknowledging what that is for you, or what your FAR might be. It might be
totally. You
20
got to define
people.
it. What do you want, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when it comes to speed, it's like, if speed puts your quality at risk, then that's when I think it's that balancing point. I liken it to kind of driving a stick shift car. I don't really drive, but I have learned before. And so
I'm not driving with you, just so you know.
I'm actually a really great driver.
I'm out.
Let's go. Hey, I rode with you in that red Mustang. You were pretty scary.
I was well, I didn't say I wasn't.
I think I'd sit in my car first.
Okay. Most people do say that. My wife heard this, she'd laugh. So, but like, I guess the question leads to, so many people right now are scale. And I know that that's one of your things.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think about like some of these, let's say, coaches that have really made it in the world of money. Okay. They've scaled and they're making like millions and millions of dollars. Okay. And the thing is though, like if you take one of their programs with one of their sub coaches, because that's the model, it's just like, meh. Yep. And it's almost like a machine to make money.
Right.
Like, is that something that everyone's going to have to face one day if they, like, you know what I mean? Like the quality versus speed, or quality versus like growing. Like your model that you're doing, it will not scale eventually. Mm-hmm. So do you just, let's crank our prices up? Like, you just start, the same conversations are happening constantly. I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many things that you said in there that I think are worth addressing, which is, the first one is the kind of sell them on the dream and then kind of push them off to the side. And I just feel like that's doing a huge disservice to your audience, because what they don't realize is what is leaving a bad taste, like word of mouth, social reputation is so massive right now. Huge. You cannot find anything, right? It's like Yelp. That's why Yelp is doing so well. And I just find that when you compromise on quality for speed, kind of as I alluded to, was like, you're not actually playing the long game, right? Like, you're playing the fast game, and the fast game, it's the tortoise and the hare, right? The tortoise is always going to win. I don't know. The hare might win the race, right? But it depends on what you're after, what your goals are. And so I find that to be incredibly frustrating. And to be honest, it's doing their business more damage than it is actually helping them, because at the end of the day, I'm getting some second tier person who doesn't know what they're talking about. How I'm going to refer that program is, hey, I wouldn't take that. This guy's great, but his back, the back end of the business is terrible. And so that's going to hurt those people.
So you can spike, you can grow, and you shrink.
Yeah.
And I always say the conversation behind your back is your brand.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the hard part in scaling, because it's like there's that point as a coach, you almost have to have a separate product revenue stream. Yep. If you're, you know what I mean, to stay with doing what you love and giving people breakthroughs and amazing, connecting their businesses to what matters and all that. It's almost like you need a product on the side to create revenue if you want to grow that big. Do you think?
Well, I think that there's a really good opportunity for people to just really be open and honest about what they're selling, right? So if I'm like, you're buying my program and you buy the program and then I ship you off to somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. Bait and switch, totally. And so it's like, I'm going to be really honest about what I'm selling. And if I'm selling a system, or I'm selling a set of prompts, or if people are buying me, that's what they should get, right? If they're buying my system, right? And, I always talk about, like, I'm kind of waging war against the 12-step system and the blueprint and the template, but sometimes those are actually what people need, right?
Totally. It's a tactical guideline of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah. And it depends on where you are in your business for that to be effective. And so I think that when you actually look at what people are buying, if it is a course or a program, just keeping that quality really high, and keeping, I was part of a community, or I ran a community with, 1,200 members for about 2 years. And in that community, the course was the same across the board. We would add occasionally a couple things. I was doing more live trainings. And then I just started hiring more people to get engaged in the community. That was their sole responsibility. So it is, that's cool, like, managing this
to find the right person is critical, right? It always comes down to team hiring. Like, I've hired good people, and I've hired people that are like, make my life so freaking easy. And then I've hired people that I got to train extra and all this. I'm like, fire quick. I fire so fast. I hire, take my time. and then I fire them quick. It's like one of my favorite things. I teach that all the time in my coaching, and it actually opens up the door to massive personal growth conversations and confrontation.
Both, maybe. Yeah.
Well, it's controlling. It's like, you actually don't know what you're doing in your business. You are accountable to your business all of a sudden. You can't just ignore it. Like, it's so much. It's one of the most powerful tools. And it sounds so easy when you say it. Oh yeah, I'll just hire someone. It's, for me, I find that, like, for me, that's easy, but I've also gone through, wrecked some of them, and, and like, they're like, you're terrible to deal with. Okay, don't do that again. But you might as well practice. You can always hire more. But I feel like, yeah, it's one of those areas that it's almost the secret, right? But then you got to hire someone. That's the answer.
Well, hiring them and then training them. I think that's like,
that's why they don't hire, because they don't know how to train too, right?
Exactly. And so I ran a course on outsourcing, and I just find outsourcing, even in like VAs, I've had VAs in the Philippines for the last 4 or 5 years. And I've just always had the best VAs. And everyone's like, how does that, I get burned all the time. And I'm like, because I just actually take the time to train them.
Exactly.
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
The way that I do it is super simple, right? Obviously I'm tracking my time, so I know what I need to outsource. This is what I tell my clients. Track your time so you know what you need to outsource. Anything that you're doing, any task or have any sort of responsibility under that you would pay or somebody would pay under $10,000 or $5,000 for a task, you should be outsourcing. Totally. Somebody else can do that. And then in the beginning, if you've never hired someone before, then actually I do like a screen capture. So I'm recording my screen as I'm going through it, and I'm just on a microphone telling them what I'm doing. And I'm like, and then you click here because this is going to bring you there. So it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And then I just hand it off to the person and just say, hey, watch this video. Let me know what you think. And then I would love to see a completed Infusionsoft email sent to me. And that's how I know it's done. Amazing. I don't care how you get it done. Here's a video if that helps.
It's amazing how that, like, when you tell, like, you actually are assuming that people have systems. Yeah. They had it's so much chaos in it. So I've got a bit of a lightning round here I want to do. Okay. All right. Okay. Now it's a competition. Now I'm gonna get way harder questions. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute here. No. Okay. We're just gonna burn through some questions here. Yeah. What rejuvenates you the most when you feel burnt out?
Getting outside. Yeah.
With bare feet or with shoes or in the bush?
Yeah, being in the grass with my shoes off. Like grounding. Yeah.
I wondered. That's what I was thinking. I did in my head, I'm like, you're in your bare feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were just asked to create a scratch and sniff sticker. Describe the image and the smell.
All right, I'm going to go with the first one that comes to my head, which is probably going to be a lily. I love the smell of lilies. Okay. And it's going to be one of the, I don't know if this is a thing, a lick and sniff? Is that a thing? Can you lick it?
I don't know. I'm getting more weirded out here now. We should move on. Licking what? You just lick and then you sniff.
I totally just made that up, but
it's a really bad movie. Really bad one.
Yeah, rated R.
What are you watching? I'm just watching Lick and Sniff. Yeah.
This is going to be one of the
Don't let the kids in. We're watching Lick and Sniff. Lick and Sniff. Honey, it's Lick and Sniff night.
Oh my God. I feel like at the end of this, when we push stop, this is going to be one of those things. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But I was thinking, I should just let it go. But I was thinking like, you know how you like lick stamps?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that. So, but maybe it tastes good. So maybe
yours is
maybe mint ice cream, and then it tastes like mint ice cream, and then you.
Okay. Now that doesn't have it. If you just started with that, I'd be like, wow. Now I'm thrown right off. Okay, so we'll move on. What's the one rule from your childhood that you do not agree with now as an adult?
We don't show emotions.
Wow, that's so good. So good. Is that something going on to this day?
Yeah, always.
It's kind of an unwritten family rule still.
Yeah.
So
I think it's loosening a little bit now that we're older.
Probably because you're being emotional with them. No, for real. You know what I mean? You're showing them like it's not too bad. We give permission by just being free, you know?
Yep.
I wonder if that's affecting them. If your life was going to be a motion picture, a movie, who would be the actress you would choose to act for you? You totally know.
I totally know.
I look at you, I'm like, it was like, I wasn't even finished. I'm like, she knows. What is it?
I've always wanted my life to be a movie. Charlize Theron. She is just like the most beautiful person ever, and she's fun. And that's the thing, is she's not just beautiful. She's like fun, and she gets in character, and she's normal and nice, and really relatable.
That's great. It's funny. Imagine if you had a movie of yourself. It'd be weird, hey?
Oh God, I would love it.
You'd love it. So hold on, we're doing so we need to shout out that just in case we have a producer. So. Yeah,
and maybe I'll be like the guy who eats all the McDonald's, but it'll just be like, see how much ice cream I can eat, and then
I want in on that. If you ever get that, I'll do the ice cream show too. Okay. So if you were you're a moth, what's your flame?
The first thing that came to my head was love. Yeah. I'm a sucker for love. All my friends have always said, Phoebe loves love. I do. I'm very expressive with, I tell my friends all the time how much I love them. And I love watching other people in love. And I love watching the love that I have for my nephew. It's like all of these. Yeah. So love would be mine.
That's how I see God. It's just simply love. It's just or the universe. It just comes down to that. Name something very popular that you feel is totally overrated.
Something popular that I think is really overrated. Soul Cycle.
Soul Cycle? I don't know what that is. What is that?
Oh, it's like spinning classes, but they charge. With soul? Well, and I think they light candles around the room.
Oh, I was thinking like a bunch of old Motown black guys. Soul.
Oh. No.
So there's so you light candles and you cycle.
And it's like the classes are like $40-$50 a class, and you just go, and I don't know.
That sounds like naked yoga or beer yoga. It just sounds like someone just came up with something really dumb and it went.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. The other thing I'm gonna say is LeBron James.
That's so controversial because he's like a god on this planet.
I know, and he's about to play the Warriors, so.
Okay, are you a basketball player?
I used to be, yeah.
But you're not a soccer player. We've already discussed that.
Exactly.
So it's too bad you're not good at that. Anyways, name an animal that you identify with and explain why.
So I did an exercise recently where you did a left brain and a right brain, and so you wrote out what your left brain thought. And so my left brain thought of my business as a tiger, very adaptable, big, has a big presence, but is really careful and strategic.
That answer is so strategic.
Is it? Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm like, that's it's like you had that planned. It's like,
totally.
Okay,
But so that's my left brain, right?
Okay.
But then my right brain came out, and so you write with the non-dominant hand to access your right brain. And
Okay.
owl came out for me, and so for me,
owl, tiger, okay.
Yeah, which is a little bit different. But for me, the owl was, I think it's I'm not going to say that I'm very wise, but I'm very pensive. I like to think a lot, and also, this might come out a little funny, but the owl has the toughest grip of any animal in the world. And I feel like that is actually how I operate in life. I don't, I kind of I don't want to say stalk my prey, but I fly through, but I find someone who I really like, in terms of business, friendship, whatever. And I just I want to get in, I want to find out what makes you tick, find out who you are, what your truth is, help you, help me, just kind of that symbiotic relationship. But it is that grip. And that is the mama bear mode in me that comes out, that is incredibly protective of the people that I really care about. So that's my
that is a very big, deep answer to your favorite animal. And that's really cool. So what's your favorite, easy one, what's your favorite dessert? Ice cream.
Yeah, ice cream or, oh God, I have a million. Creme brulee.
Oh, really? Okay.
Brulee.
So
apple crumble.
I love apple crumble with ice cream, vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
So if you were to, what's your favorite way to eat chocolate? Because you probably love chocolate, I'm guessing.
I'm not a massive chocolate person, which is surprising. But what's my favorite way to eat it? What do you mean?
I don't know.
In a bar form?
We could skip this question because it's completely flat now.
No.
I don't know.
I would say mine is more, if it's little, chocolate is the accent, right? So mid.
See, this is more like it. You knew the answer. So, okay. So go ahead.
No, to eat like I would never like sit and eat a whole bar of chocolate, but I would eat a whole pint of ice cream.
I think those pints are 1 servings, aren't they?
Yeah.
I've always thought that. I get
until you look at the, oh my God, I had this moment.
You don't look at the serving. That's such a scam. That's just like it's 9 calories for half a teaspoon.
1,000 calories for 1
Whoa.
pint.
That's not bad.
Oh
That's
my
all
God.
if that's all you eat in the whole day,
Yeah,
then you're on. That's a good thing.
Totally.
So being business from within, I always thought being interviewing people would definitely want to get to know you and do all this stuff. But I always thought, you know what, how cool would it be for the person on the other side to challenge me? I'm always open to being challenged most of the time. You know me probably better than some people too. But if you had to ask me a question, what would a question be?
I mean, I have a couple questions for you in terms of.
Your face makes me nervous right now. you're like almost like mischievous or something.
Yeah,
it's like,
let me get comfortable.
Yeah, I know. It's like, wow, okay. We got 2. Okay.
I don't
Go
think
for it.
so. I'm hard. Like the word challenge for me is really interesting because I don't ever, because I am quite competitive, and when I think of a challenge, I think of something that's hard and not very fun. But when I think of an invitation, it seems more lighthearted for me. And so when I look at, what you've accomplished and who you are as a person and as a dad, I will say I'm incredibly inspired by who you are as a dad and a husband. I think you, from what I know, you do a great job. What is one area in your life that you feel like you are, that you would like to improve, or that you're struggling in, that making strides towards being better in that area would have a benefit for you?
For sure. I think the struggle would be that I have amazing ambition on what I can accomplish, and I can accomplish, and I feel like I have to always fight to not have too much on my plate. And I always think if I could focus on one thing, and I've come to terms that I probably never will focus on one thing. You should see what I'm doing right after this. I get off on doing a lot of things, but I think that would be also it's on the outside, I can really package it as wow, productive and all this. But the truth is, I think I put so much on my plate, and I don't know 100% why. And I think I need to figure that out. And that's something that I've been haunted with to a point where my relationships with my wife and kids were. So in comparison to a really bad situation, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
But in comparison to how great it could be. So I really, really focus on really trying to know what I want, what makes me tick.
Yeah.
And so I find my wife and kids is my grounding place.
Yeah.
When it's always it's my blind spot, because I feel so ambitious. I can do anything. I got this crazy, for violin, I'll figure it out. I got this, and it comes across sometimes arrogant. I don't mean to, but it's I just feel like I've overcome so much shit in my life, really hard stuff, that I'm that's nothing. I just have this weird, which is also, there's a shadow side to that where I'm not really listening and I have blind spots. And the thing is, my wife and kids expose those majorly. You're like, oh, you're not listening to me. What are you talking about? Okay. It's just what they do. They don't see how great I am as all these people that are wow, you're speaking on stage and you're doing this stuff, you're making money. And that's so easy to hide behind. You go home, they don't see that.
Yeah.
So it helps me stay grounded. And I really try to listen to their reactions, the energy in the home, because when I know the difference, when I'm I can just tell, tell. And that's something that's when I have too much on my plate and life sucks, nothing and my relationships get affected at home, nothing really feels good. That's what I've determined. So how's that?
Yeah, great. So can I ask a couple more questions?
Go for it. I think I sent you an email saying, are you okay with anything we talk about on the show? I don't know if you read it. It's this is what it's about, right?
Totally.
And if I'm going to be doing it, that's why I say I don't want to be this person that's on this behind the mic going, oh, let's interview you. I'm put me on the thing, and I'll get something out of it too. And I think it's inspiring for people to see that too.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable, but it's.
I love when people are is there anything off limits? I'm well, if there was, then I would hope you would talk about that, because then there's something in that.
Yeah. So me and you alike. So we both are like that. Bring it on. And if I feel so embarrassed, and I'm okay, well, there's something there.
Yep. It's a good opportunity. I always say X marks the spot, right? It's that part. All right. So, if I were to give you all the money in the world, right, but you were not allowed to work for a year, what would you go and do? Or where would you go? What would you do? Who would you do it with?
Well, okay, so all the money in the world, I can't spend it. I can't work.
Yeah. You're like, you're not allowed to have a job. You're not allowed to have a podcast. You're not allowed to video, nothing.
Okay. So, I'd probably really upgrade my house and make it, I could say, Renee, you got no budget, go for it. And that'd be the first thing I do is that she would love that. So that's the first thing I would do. For a year, like work, like I'm just trying to figure out like how I would spend the money. Is it like, is that what you mean?
It's just, how would you spend your time? So money is no
okay.
object.
So we eliminated any kind of like, okay. So, I would create experiences that would drive relationships between fathers and sons. I would create experiences like that, maybe a little Survivor style, where there's challenges, where there's like maybe a little bit of like a psychotherapist kicking around, or who knows, energy healer, or who knows. I'd probably create situations where fathers and sons could connect, and in return, it'd all be building relationships. I'd spend my time just probably. What I would do is I'd sit a lot and think. It's one of my favorite things to do. And being a crazy extrovert with intense energy, I feel like there's something in me, and I would go within and just start creating. I would just create content. I would just put my thoughts out there. I would just be like hyper creation, and then probably spend a lot of time with my wife and kids all over the place. I'd probably pull them right out of school, to be honest. I'd pull them right out of school. If there's like zero limitations, I take them. Like, let's go. You don't need school. Like,
where would you go?
I'm not one place. It'd be like adventure. It'd be all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
I love where you live. We've gone there all the time. San Francisco, that whole strip. But there's some, like, I think there's places out there that are like places you would just never know. That's what I would look at. I probably wouldn't go to like India or something like that, but that I would probably look at bringing my kids to a third world country. Yeah. It's on my list. I think that'd be pretty cool for kids to see that. I went to Ethiopia, I spent a month there. And once you see that, it changes you. So yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, that's awesome. Other than the creating content, because you're not allowed to create any content, but I like the experiences. Yeah. And then taking your kids and your wife around. That's really cool. Yeah.
I feel like when I was kind of a drug addict living on the streets, and I just was so hurting, always thinking of suicide and going through this crazy, like, it was just darkness, just every day, just so dark. And I got through that. And I just said, I just wish I could have just a wife and kids. I think that'd be the coolest life. And it was funny because my perspective then is different than now. Obviously, like you say, like we kind of refer to, like, back in the day, we just want to make like 100 grand. And then all of a sudden it's like 10 million. Yeah. So I really look back and go, okay, if that's really was my goal, I've arrived. And like to really have a good relationship with my wife and kids, like, that's a pretty cool life. So I feel like in a one way I've arrived, because it's really good. So I feel like that's where life is a bit of a bonus and an adventure. Because if we come back down to it, it's like, that's all I wanted when it was all broken and crashed, just to go home and be loved, to be able to give love, and it's in your unit. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can very much relate to that. And I know we had a conversation once about my nephew, and it was like, it is just so pure, because he doesn't care what I do for a living. He doesn't care if I'm on the latest podcast and whatever. He doesn't care. He's just like so cute.
Totally. So, doesn't see it. He doesn't even see that stuff. That's what's so weird. We build this huge empire. They don't see it. Yeah. It's like, what is that? That's a really interesting thing to think about. Like, they don't see it, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, it's like, they don't even see it. These little children just don't see it.
When I know that one of my biggest, I would say like biggest regrets, even though it's not really, because I can understand where I was at the time, but I had no idea who my dad was in terms like professionally. Okay. I didn't know all he was like really famous in hypertension, and was like, he was a cardiologist, so like really intelligent, but like really well established, had written all these books. And at 18, you don't really care who your parents are, like I would have way different questions now than I would at 18. But I just remember being like, wow, God, he was really cool. And like, I didn't even know that, he was like a really great guy, and all these people really loved and cared about him. And I just knew him as like my dad, which is still pretty cool, Yeah. All right. My last question for you is a question I was asked recently. And
did you come prepared for this? Like you did it? You look so planned. I'm like,
no,
that's cool.
It's funny.
No, I love it.
I always have a pad and paper.
I know, it looks anyway. Like that. No, I love it. I love it. It's good. Such great energy.
So, Yeah, so one of my friends asked me recently, what is a problem in the world or an issue in the world that gives you a physical reaction? So either you cry or, your stomach hurts. Like, what is the one thing in the world that
It's a great question. Really good question. It tells you a lot about who you are. One thing that really I can get it's a mixture of deep sadness and anger and emotion would be when I see someone completely not being who they are, there's just their whole life is just lived for something other than what they really are. I just have this insane, I was that guy. I was that guy. I just wanted to be what everyone else wanted me to be. And so I see that a lot in religions, Christianity, where they're trying to be like Jesus, and they just don't talk about being yourself. And so there's this massive identity crisis mixed with some form of really cool spirituality. And it's like this. So when I see that, to be really honest, I've never shared this too much, but I'll listen to old school sermons and it makes me so fired up. I'm like, this is crazy. But it's I don't know, it's like torture sometimes. Just because I just listen, it's they just don't believe in themselves. They believe in something outside of themselves. I'm not saying not to believe in God or Jesus or anything like that. It's just there's just a huge misconnection between self-belief. They're actors in their own lives. And I see it all the time. How many family members? Just go look at your own family members. You're like, that's not who you are. That kills me. So, and I feel it ties a lot to my past growing up in Christian church and telling me I'm supposed to be a certain way, and being me wasn't really right. So I think maybe that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
So, well, I think we can wrap it up. Unless you want to do anything else, I think this has been so great, Phoebe, honestly. I feel like you have an energy about you. The first day I met you, I told you, you walked in the room, I didn't know who you were. I feel people. I literally, it's like this thing, I just feel people first. I kind of feel like I can see who people really are. And it was like you walked in and you were like this presence, like a queen. You walk in and I'm like, who is that? And it wasn't an exterior, it was just your energy, and it was a presence. And you definitely have an energy, caught my eye. And it's my energy caught, you know what I mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like that's really cool. So I'm really excited to see what you're going to do in your life. I think anyone should work with you. I think women are going to be privileged to do that. So we will be sharing this all over the place, and you can share it too. And then, I just want people to get to know Phoebe. So that'd be great.
Thank you so much. And I, of course, because I always have something to say.
And that's a wrap. Oh, never mind. Kate, no, let's keep going.
The only other last thing I was going to say is just that, just to acknowledge you on this journey. This is really exciting to watch something that came out of a conversation that, I was kind of a part of, or, on the periphery of, and just to watch the way that this is really unfolded for you so naturally, and the way that you're just sharing your truth and your expertise. And I've always really admired your confidence in just being who you are and speaking out with conviction about who you are and what you believe. And so I just want to thank you for being just such a great friend. And the way that you invited me on here was just, high, very, when we talk about quality, just really a quality. It made me feel really special and really valued. And that's something that I know you do for a lot of people. So just to acknowledge you.
It's just for you, Phoebe. Never, not the only person I've done that. No, I appreciate that. I really do. I'm excited about, I have a natural ability. I just keep looking forward. It's actually a curse and a blessing. I don't know if you relate to that, but I can see a future. We'll know each other for a long time. That's cool.
Absolutely.
And let me know if I can help with anything.
I appreciate
that.
Thank you.